Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode on the Unleashing Potentials podcast. My name is Bernadette Desir, and I'm your host. Joining me today is special guest Rhonda Simmons. How are you?
I am great, Bernadette. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to have you on the show to get to know you and the work that you've been doing.
Yes, yes, so glad to be here.
Mhm.
Definitely glad.
Yeah, Rhonda, where are you tuning in from?
I am in Texas in the United States. Yay, Texas. As they say, everything's bigger in Texas.
You know what? I went to Texas a few years ago. I don't know if I'm coming back. It
Oh
was
my
too
goodness.
hot for me. Too hot.
Oh, yes, yes. Did you
Woo!
come in the summer?
I think I did. I did
Yes.
not
Oh
most
my
of the
goodness.
time. Too hot. No, no, no.
Every year I have this saying, Texas makes me want to live right because I tell you, it is so hot in the summertime. I remember the first year I got here 20 years ago, it was so hot that as I was driving down the street, I remember it sounding like I was riding through puddles of rain. It
Yeah.
wasn't raining, it was that the asphalt was melting on the
Wow.
road. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think the heat
that's really
index got
warm.
up to about 117, 120, something like that. Yeah.
Ooh, wow. Well,
Yeah.
I hope you're staying cool if it's still that hot there.
Well, it is comfortable now that it's fall, but normally our hottest months are July and August, and then it makes one more loop around in September, and then it starts to cool off maybe around the middle of October. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's awesome. So, Rhonda, to start, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
all righty. Well, as you said, my name is Rhonda. Well, it's not as you said, but it really is. My name is Rhonda Simmons.
Mhm.
And I do a whole lot of things. I like to say that God has situated me at the junction between education and ministry because I've been in education for about almost 15 years as a teacher and school principal. But I've also been in ministry for over 30 years. And so, even though those are two very distinct careers to have, um, the deeper I go in both of them, the more I see similarities. And so I think I am positioned in a good place to do what I do. I have a coaching practice called Dear Future Me, the coaching program. And that is connected to my nonprofit organization called the Simmons Empowerment Foundation Incorporated. And so in my foundation, what uh, what we do is we help unwed teen moms. Our vision is to have a home for them and their newborns, and not just to, have shelter, because, we want to do more than that. Our key word is um, empowerment. And so we want to empower these young ladies through pre and postnatal health education, job skills training, and coaching. And so we love working with these teen moms. And in my coaching practice, I work with at-risk students here in the United States. There are several crises that could happen in a child's life that would get them, for lack of a better word, labeled as being at risk for high school dropout. For example, having a baby as a teenager or younger, it could happen. It wouldn't make that child be listed as at risk for high school dropout, being homeless, if they have a parent who's incarcerated. That those are all factors that increase the statistics against that child for completing high school. And so my coaching program, one program is specifically for at-risk students ages 14 to 21, and we help them improve their college and career readiness through our coaching program. And so I'm also a podcaster and an author. I just published my second book in March of 2023 this year, and it's called Dear Future Me. the journey begins, and it's written like a daily devotional. And it has to do with three different conflicts. One is understanding uh, the conflict within yourself, understanding the conflicts in your relationships, as well as understanding those situations in our lives that we don't have any control over. And so each chapter is based upon a one-word theme. And so it's a really easy read, but I believe it'll be a blessing to many.
Wow. Just wow. What an incredible soul that you are for doing the work that you're doing. I'm not in the States, I'm in Canada, but thank you because I was a teen mom. It was unexpected. I had to go back to finish high school and then go to university. I did not complete that, but I'm grateful for you because you're helping the next generation. Not only are you reaching out to them, but you're helping them succeed and to be the best version that they can be of themselves. Can
Yes.
yeah. Can you take
Thank
us
you.
back to what it was like for you growing up, and what are some things that you've been through?
Absolutely. And that's a good question, because many times when I tell people um, about my foundation, they automatically think that I was a teen mom. And so that's why I'm doing it and I'm trying to give back. Um, and that's not the case at all. In fact, I don't have any children. The reason why I started the foundation in 2020 is because number one, God told me to, but He also gave me this vision in 2003 before I moved to Texas. And I was praying about what was I supposed to do in Texas once I got here, and starting out in a home for unwed teen moms was His answer. I'm like, oh my goodness, didn't see that coming. And so my connection to the work that we do is very different, but it's very real to me. Um, many years ago, I was very, very sick and super duper sick. And I had to make a decision about having surgery that I knew before I had it would leave me unable to have children. And it wasn't an elective surgery. It was a situation where I had to decide either do it now, where it's not an emergency situation, or do it later when it's a matter of life and death. And so it was just a matter of when I did it. And at the time, I was a lot younger and I was in ministry. Like I said, I've been in ministry for over 30 years. And I was traveling all over the place and just preaching and going forth and all that. And I remember thinking or rationalizing, well, I didn't want to end up in a foreign country preaching and need this surgery, and I can't communicate with my medical team because of a language barrier. And so I did what I felt was the right thing for me at the time, and I decided to have this surgery. And so I remember the night of the surgery, it was over, and I woke up in excruciating pain. I mean, just unbelievable pain. And I was heavily sedated, but I woke up and I still to this day remember the first thought I had. And that thought was, oh my God, what have I done? Bernadette, to this day, and it's been 23 years, to this day, that moment is forever burned in my memory. I can still hear those thoughts going through my mind today. And the reason why that was such a moment in my history is because I realized that for all the faith that I had preached everywhere, and, hooray, God can do it, God can do it, let's just believe God for the impossible. I preached it, I preached it, I preached it. But in my moment of crisis, I didn't give God a chance. And no one in my circle asked me this one question. And that question was, Are you prepared to live with the decision that you made?
Mm.
And they didn't ask me that question. And I'm not blaming them. I was a grown woman then, like I'm grown now. I didn't ask myself that question because I that experience taught me that there are some things in life that simply cannot be undone.
Mm.
They're just they just can't be undone, you know. And I never asked myself, you know, am I prepared to live with all that comes along with my decision? Because, you know, every decision, every choice has a reward or a consequence, and you're going to live with either one, you know. And sometimes, especially as a teenager, they don't think about the consequences. They don't think about, you know, life 10 years ahead. You know, how is this one moment, this one decision going to impact my life forever? And in my crisis, when I realized, oh my God, what have I done? I just I carried that weight of regret all the time. Just because I couldn't go back and undo it. I couldn't change it. It was devastating for me. And nobody prepared me for the psychological part that came with it. You know, this wasn't an abortion. Let me be clear. This wasn't an abortion. I have a hard time saying the word of the surgery just because it's just a tender place in my heart. But it was, let me be clear, it was not an abortion. I just, oh my God, what have I done? And I've lived with that. And it wasn't until probably within the last 5 to 7 years, if that, that I read a scripture in Proverbs, because Mother's Day was just a horrible experience for me every year, you
Mm.
know, just because everybody's celebrating their mama. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew I couldn't do it.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I read a scripture in Proverbs
Yeah.
that said, and I'm just paraphrasing, that said that there were 7 things that would never be satisfied. And one of them was the barren womb. And in that moment, when I read that verse, Bernadette, I realized God really does know how I'm feeling and what this feels like and why, you know, because you can tell when your friends look at you with pity and they never say it, but you can tell that they're thinking, well, why is she grieving over children she never had?
Mm.
You know, and that seems so insensitive to me. Uh, but I do understand their question. It's just as a woman, you know that there are some things that you were created to do, and having children is just one of those things, you know. And just knowing that I couldn't do it, it just, yeah. So my connection to the work that I do is that pain of regret. And, you know, I just want to help these young ladies think it all the way through, you know, before they make whatever decision they're going to make, think it all the way through. Are you prepared to live with that? And, you know, now I've come to realize that my foundation is my baby. I stay up with it all night. I cry over it. I fight for it. I work hard, super hard for it. And God placed me in education where I am surrounded by more children than I could ever birth. And so
Yeah.
God has a way of fixing it. And so here I am. That's just one of many stories, but it's a big one for me.
Wow. I want to honor you for your bravery, your courage, authenticity, and for the work that you do, and for the healing that you've done and continuing to do, not only in your life, but many other lives. And
Thank you.
yeah, I'm a mother. I don't know, I'm not going to say I understand how you're feeling. That's one of the worst words anyone can say to me, so I'm not going to say it. I do not understand what it feels like, but I can sit with you in your pain. And I want to thank you for allowing me to be by your side in your pain and for sharing your story, because
Thank you.
there are so many other women that are possibly going through the same thing, but you're not every woman, right? You
No.
are heaven sent, and God put you on the path that He does for reasons that I may not know, you may not know, but over time you're seeing how your pain has turned into fruits and power. So I thank you for that. And it's hard. I don't like Mother's Day as well. Let me make that
Okay.
clear. I do not like it. I don't like holidays, anything that is anything about celebrating. I don't like it because I don't have experience with it. It wasn't modeled to me. So why should I care of what people are deeming to be special, right? Not
No.
that there's anything wrong with liking it or not liking it. It's a personal preference. And I admire you for sharing that. And for those
Thank you.
people, as you were sharing, they don't understand why you're grieving. They'll never understand because they're not you, and they haven't been in your shoes and the storms that you faced. I say let those people go because they're gonna be everywhere that you turn. It's true.
Yeah.
Everywhere you look, they're gonna be there. And
Yeah.
you're doing what you're doing and it's serving a purpose. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if I can add to the story,
Mhm.
um, fast forward 2 years from my surgery, um, I was engaged to be married, and that's a whole nother testimony in and of itself. But I wasn't going to tell my fiance. I wasn't going to tell him about it. And I remember talking to my a pastor friend of mine about it because I felt such remorse and such shame about it. Even though this, I was just sick. It just happened. It wasn't because of life choices. It wasn't, that I had been living a wild life or anything like that. I was just sick. And so I was talking to a pastor friend of mine about it, and I was telling her that I wasn't going to tell my soon-to-be husband. And she said, "You must tell him before you get married." She said, "Because if you start your marriage off with a lie," she said, "there is no way your marriage will have success. And you cannot." And she said, "I know it hurts. I know you're feeling this pain and anxiety." She said, "But this is a prime time to tell him. And if he stays, great. If he walks, great. But he deserves to know." And I will never forget the day that I told him. Oh my goodness, Bernadette, I was scared to death because I really did not know how he was going to handle this information because he and I have known each other since the age of 2. But this little section of my life he didn't know about. And I told him about it, through tears. And that day will always be etched in my memory too, because without batting an eyelash, without a moment's hesitation, he said, "Did you have children when you were 2 when we first met?" I said, "No, of course not." He said, "Did you?" He said, "Did you have children?" I don't know how old we were, but did you have children the first time I told you I loved you? I said, "No." He said, "I have loved you all of my life without children." He said, "And there is nothing you can do to stop that. And I will love you for the rest of my life." And
Ooh,
oh my goodness, you talk about snotting and crying and buckling tears. Yes. And so I knew he was definitely a keeper. And so that's been our truth.
oh my good. That is a man right there. For those boys
Yes,
that are listening. Wow. That
yes,
that is the
yes,
testimony itself. Just
yes.
his response, and I bet, like you were saying, you were bawling your eyes out.
I was because I didn't know if he would look at me like half a woman. I didn't know how he was going to respond at all, but I knew, like my friend told me, I had to tell him this was our testing ground right here. and one of many, but that was the first one. And you definitely want a relationship built on honesty and trust. So I'm so glad I told him.
Yeah, yeah. I have a saying. I always say, I'd rather be hurt with the truth than with a lie.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that you
Wow.
were open about that as well, and just what it did. That's so cool. And you guys are still together in love?
Yes, we are now. Here you go. Here's the other, here's that story. So my husband and I have known each other now for over 50 years. We have, we were married for 7 years. We were divorced for 12 years, but God brought us back together and we remarried in 2021 and we are happier than ever.
Wow, that's awesome. That is so
Yeah,
cool. I love
yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, that's really cool. Were you also adopted?
No, I was not. No, I was
Okay,
not.
okay. Okay, you're doing something about adoption. Am I correct?
Yes, I just finished a documentary with one adoptive parent, and I am open. I know we're close to the end of November, but I do have some slots open for other adoptees or adoptive parents. And the documentary is called Somebody's Child: Adoptive Stories from the Heart.
Mhm.
And and so I did an interview with Dawn Williams from the United States, and she told her story. Amazing. Oh my goodness. An amazing story of just faith and going from fear to faith and years of trying to have a baby and how God just blessed her and her husband. And there's a special treat at the end of the documentary. I would tell you, but I don't want to do a spoiler alert. There's a
Yeah,
special treat at the end of the documentary. And so it's real exciting, real exciting.
that's so cool. I was adopted, so I'm so honored that you didn't know I was adopted? I'm kidding.
No,
You didn't?
no, no, I don't think we talked about that. Goodness. So I know we talked about you being a teen mom. Oh yeah, so we're gonna have to get together and just have a full
Yeah,
powwow podcast where you just spill the tea.
yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. I'm
That
I'm
is
I'm like an
amazing.
onion. I have lots of layers. Like my story is wild. People ask me, how are you still standing? I don't know. I don't know, but yes, I was adopted. And
Oh
I've
my
been in the
goodness.
foster care, teen pregnancy, mental health, pain, all of it.
Wow. Wow. To God be the glory. And now
Yes.
you've got this podcast where you're turning your pain into power and you're just helping other people as well. Oh my goodness. And I love your background because it epitomizes your approach. You're reaching the entire world across the
Yeah,
globe.
yeah,
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 that's
yeah.
exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, everything, well, most of the interviews I know. I may not have gone through the exact situation, but I know a thing or two about rejection, pain, trauma, hate, love, and all of it. So I think because of my experience, I'm able to sit with people and meet them where they are, not where I want them to be.
Yes,
I want to
yes,
see people open up in a way that's raw. You know how in society we put on a mask, and
yes,
I don't want to see the
yes.
mask. I want to see the person behind it. Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a really good analogy because sometimes we enter into relationships thinking that people are one thing when, once we get them home, they're something totally different.
Yeah.
It's simply because we didn't take time to to
Mhm.
get the mask off.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, wow. Wow. I can't wait to interview you. She's going to be on my podcast, y'all, Empowered Heart to Heart.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
it's going to
excited.
happen.
Yeah,
I,
tell me
I am
more about
too.
your podcast.
Oh, well, I started that about over a year and a half ago. It's called Empowered Heart to Heart. It's on Spotify and iHeartRadio and I think it might be on Apple as well, and a couple of other places. And it's real exciting because with our podcast, that's where people will find messages of hope, conversations that heal, and interviews that empower. And so a lot of times I have guests on like yourself. Other times I'm giving some messages of hope because I am a Christian. And so I get to share my faith with people and just have just those crucial conversations. And that's why it's called Empowered Heart to Heart. It's like a fireside chat. And what's so funny is ever since I started this foundation, God puts things in my heart to do, creative things and innovative things to do. And, my mind is, let's get it done. It never dawns on me until I'm in the throes of it. I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I remember when God first put it in my heart to have the podcast, I'm like, okay, yeah, fine. And then, I pushed it to the back burner of my mind. And then the thought came up again. And I'm like, well, I have to do. And I watched a YouTube not long after that. And what's so funny is the guy was interviewing another guy, and the entire interview had to do with how to create a podcast. Yeah. And they even listed all of the equipment that you should get, because if you're going to do it, you should do it with excellence and, have good equipment. And so I literally just clicked on the links and bought the things. I think I bought everything on the list except for one thing. And
That's
I'm like, okay, yeah. And I've got my creative tree here with me and everything. And I don't know how to operate everything on my soundboard, but I make it work.
Yeah, that's awesome. Me too. We have that in common because I don't know. When it was put on my heart by God, I'm like, can you choose someone else? Then,
Yeah.
I have a very strong resistance, if I may put it that way. I
Mhm.
pull against what I should go forward to because
Mm.
no experience, nothing. So I don't know. I guess it's working.
It is. It is. And the Lord even helped me figure out how to record and use the audio for the podcast and the video for my YouTube channel. And I'm like, okay, double dipping. It works for me.
That's awesome. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you still a pastor?
I am. I am an associate pastor at New Life Apostolic Church in Killeen, Texas.
Mm,
And I've been at that church for 20 years since I've been in Texas, 20 years. And
mm,
it's a wonderful multicultural church based upon God's word. And I just love being there. I love the pastoral family.
mm.
It's just an exciting time. Lots of people of all age groups. I think our oldest member is 79. Of course, we've got newborn babies and everything in between, lots of couples, and we take a holistic approach in making sure that everyone is touched by the word of God in a way that appeals to their developmental age. So we've got children's church, we call it Power Hour. Of course, we've got Sunday school classes for all age groups. And so, yes, I love my church. And the exciting thing, and I don't know if I'm getting ahead of you or not,
Oh no, go
but
ahead.
um, in my church organization, I am the Texas State Elder over our Texas district. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because in the 109 years of our organization's existence, I am the first woman to ever hold that office. And
Wow.
so, yeah, that gives me a seat at the general board for the national organization. It's been an interesting ride. I've been in it for a year now, and I've got 2 more years left of my term, and we'll see what God says after that. But yes, it's been a historic journey.
Well, I'm rooting for you, woman to woman. That's
Well,
so
thank you.
exciting. You're
It
welcome.
is, it is. And what I find very um, distinct about this role is that it takes wisdom to walk among male leaders, male counterparts, because I believe that even if you have to say some critical things and things that are really important to be said. There's a way to say everything, and you want to say them in a way that leaves their dignity intact. And when you're dealing with men, I don't care what type of man it is, where the man comes from, men are just different. And you're not going to talk to them any old kind of way, you know?
Yeah.
And so even though I may have this position where I'm over them, I'm constantly making sure, I'm keeping myself in check. Are my words um, edifying? Am I coming across too aggressive? Because they're men and I don't want to bruise their egos, but there are some conversations I need to have. And so, like, there's a conversation I need to have coming up soon. And so I will have it. I mean, I'm a leader. And so this is what leaders do, but I'll do it in a way that keeps their dignity intact. It's super important.
That's good. Yeah, not everyone likes a strong leader because it somehow threatens their ability to do what you're
Yeah.
doing because they can't do it like you're doing it. So
Yeah,
you go for it, you do you, and the right people will understand and they'll acknowledge what you said and they'll learn from it. Mhm.
absolutely. That's my prayer. I'm constantly praying for wisdom.
Yeah, have you heard of TD Jakes?
Yes,
Okay, I watch his church all the time. He's in Dallas, Texas, right?
yes,
I want to go to his church one day, and I know I'll meet him one day. I don't know when, because I watch him all the time, every Sunday. He's my church
yes,
too. Yeah. Is your church on YouTube as well? I can check it out.
yes, it is.
Okay.
Um, it's New Life Apostolic Church, Killeen, Killeen.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I can look for the YouTube channel while we
Yeah.
talk. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. You can send it to me after, and if it's okay, I'll put it in the podcast description as well.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So would you say that you have any, well, we talked about it, but and I was gonna say, would you say that you have any other regrets when it comes to lessons you've learned or things you've been through?
Yeah, yeah. Um, One regret I have, and it's not 100% my fault, um, because I had handicapped parents growing up, that, was a totally different life for me. It was my normal, and I didn't know any better. And so it just seemed normal to me to have handicapped parents. And all the attention was focused mainly on my mother because she had multiple sclerosis. But I did not realize until I was a grown woman that there were some things I hadn't been taught. You know, for example, I didn't know about money. I knew how to tithe. My parents made sure I knew how to tithe to the church. Um, but as beyond that, I wasn't taught about investing. I wasn't taught, you know, um, the benefits of being debt free. I wasn't taught a lot of that. And I'll never forget, fast forward to maybe 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, it was Christmas break and we were off for 2 weeks, and I was sitting in my office desperately wanting to go on vacation, but I didn't have money to go. And and I remember just saying out loud to God and to my computer, I'm like, I'm supposed to know better. I knew I was supposed to know better. And, at a certain point in your life, you can't just keep blaming your parents. You got to take some responsibility, and get an education for yourself. And so that's one of my regrets. And just, um, yeah, I think that's one of my regrets too. Not as big as the other one, but definitely point to consider. You know how I don't know how old you are, but if you've lived long enough, at some point you're going to find yourself saying, "Oh, if I could just do it all over again, if I knew then what I know now," you will say that at least once in your life. Um, and so, yeah, Yeah, I've said it a couple times actually.
Yeah, I think life is a learning process. Some of us we rush it or we don't process things properly to grow from it, if that makes sense. Yeah,
Yes.
for me, I feel like since I got born, I've been on my own. I had to teach myself a lot of things. And
Well,
I think it's in those lessons that I've found who I am. I was given a name. I know who my bio parents were. My dad passed, my mom is alive. And being adopted, that stuff messes people up. I'm telling you. Because
wow.
I'm like, what's wrong with me? You know? And why am I not loved? So I do struggle, with relationship and stuff. Um, I think since I've gotten sick, I I don't even recognize myself because I live life so wildly. And when something very tragic happens to someone, when they have to stop their entire life, and when they start again, they get a different perspective. That's kind of where I'm getting at one point. I had to completely stop my life, school, work, hospital. That's where I had to be. Now I'm out. I'm like, this feels good. I have freedom, and it's just a different angle. So
Yeah.
live life. Don't let life live you, live it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. My husband and I are very, very different. I am very outgoing. I I would say I'm extroverted, but I'm also introverted um, too. And he comes across as being quiet. Um, I wouldn't describe him as that because he and I can talk for hours. Um, and I'm outgoing. But when it comes to living life to the fullest, oh my goodness, that is my husband all the way. Like he'll just get out a globe and spin the globe, and wherever his finger falls, that's where he's going. That's how he ended up a few years ago going to Thailand. You know, he just wanted to go. So, and he went by himself, had a great time.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Wow. That's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool.
So he definitely believes in living life to the absolute fullest.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. Yeah. Is there anything else we didn't touch on that you'd like to share with us?
Yes. So with my coaching program, as I mentioned, I have the coaching program for students, but I also have another coaching program specifically for pastors' wives. Because as I mentioned, God has situated me at the junction between education and ministry. And this program for pastors' wives helps them to improve their life balance ratings by 50% without jeopardizing their marriages, their ministries, or their careers. Because a lot of times, pastors' wives are so overlooked because everybody thinks they're okay. Nobody thinks that they have any issues because they look the part, they talk the part, they act the part, but they don't realize the constant scream on the inside. And for many of them, when they first married their husbands, their husbands wasn't either they weren't in ministry or they were just starting out in ministry, and now they're the pastor and they have to share their husbands with the entire congregation. And they're like, sign up for this, and then they're being held to unrealistic expectations of the very people that they're trying to serve. And so it creates a lot of anxiety, and they have no outlet to talk, to get stuff off of their chest. And so my coaching program for pastors' wives is not a gossip setting, is not a spill the tea. It is solutions based and trying to help pastors' wives find that balance. My birthday was last week, and I had on my birthday, I had one of my clients to text me. I mean, she texted me on her own. I didn't make her text me, but I woke up to her text and I was so blown away by it. She sent me this text and she said, Oh my goodness, it was amazing. Uh, okay. She said, uh, happy blessed birthday, woman of God. I know it was a godsend for us to connect. I am thankful for your gift, your calling, and purpose on this side of heaven. It has changed my life, gave me some God-given tools to navigate life. And I was just so blown away by her words. I wasn't expecting that. And literally, it was early in the morning, 6:10 in the morning. And so I'm like, whoa, what a way to wake up. And so it's just been a blessing working with several clients and trying to help them find that place of balance for them. It looks different for everybody,
Mhm.
but it's important that we find the balance that we need in order to do what God has called us to do. I'm not trying to get any wife to leave their husband. I'm not trying to get any pastor's wife to give up on ministry. This is not that. I'm trying to help them fulfill their calling without losing their minds or the hair, you know, and still have a balanced life all the way around.
Mhm. Yeah, that sounds like a really good coaching program to have
Thank
because
you.
it's a lot of pressure. I can only imagine what it's like to be a pastor's wives. There are just sometimes unrealistic expectations, and
Yes.
it can someone can go downhill pretty fast. Depression and just pulling back from their calling. So I'm happy you're doing that program for them. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. It's exciting work.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I have three questions for you as we wrap up. The
Okay.
first one is I'm trying to put it in order. What is the meaning of life for you?
The meaning of life for me is finding your God-given purpose and fulfilling it.
Mm,
You'll never have that sense of fulfillment until you are doing exactly what God has created you to do.
mm.
That's what life means to me.
I love that. If you could go back to your 18-year-old self, what would you say to her?
Oh my goodness, my 18-year-old self. I would say practice what you preach,
Mhm,
save money,
mhm,
and do everything God has called you to do without any fear.
mhm.
And don't let anybody stop you.
Ooh, I love that. Wow. Yeah, last question for you. Where can my listeners find you? Your books? Is it books or book?
Books,
Oh, nice.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
on
and
Amazon in
oh,
paperback or Kindle.
yeah, that's
And
awesome.
uh, my first book I actually wrote 20 years ago. It's still on Amazon in the Kindle version. It's called Maybe I Can Change God's Mind. And it talks about prevailing with God through either prayer, repentance, worship, or faith. And the second book, Dear Future Me, The Journey Begins, is available in paperback or Kindle on Amazon. My website for my foundation is www.tsefi.org. That's the acronym for the Simmons Empowerment Foundation Incorporated. Um, and my email address, you can email me at the foundation at info@tsefi.org, or you can email me at my coaching practice, which is admin@coachrhonda.org.
Awesome. Well, Rhonda, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for coming on the podcast to share your journey, passion, and thank you for blowing my hats off.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm so honored to be here with you. You have an amazing story, and I want to hear all about it because I'm definitely going to have you on our podcast, and I'm looking forward to you sharing your heart with me as well. Thank you for allowing me to be with you today.
Thank you.
All righty.